Hello everybody and welcome back to Bravely Default 2. Apologies about the previous upload, we'll call this take 2 of the job setup I'm going to be using in Chapter 5. I'm pretty sure we're in Chapter 5, I don't remember seeing Chapter 5 like as a title screen. We're definitely at the end of Chapter 4, we are past all 3 of the kind of events that happen after Chapter 3, so if we're not in Chapter 5 we'll be starting pretty soon. As you can see we have pretty much all, well I'm assuming all of the jobs, we may well get like 2 more or something. But what is looking like most of the jobs have all been mastered. And so we're going to have a look through some recommendations from me, kind of what I feel like is working and what is just doing really, really well for me, and some standout abilities that you guys might want to also use. Obviously, I've only spent like a couple of hours testing this out. One of the flaws with this right now is in the exact area that I'm in, there wasn't like a boss or anything to try and test any of this out, so I've just kind of worked on basic damage numbers from the enemies that we have in this area, which are all quite low. So let's get into that then. Firstly, obviously we've got the protagonist here, kind of being a bit of an all-rounder. Obviously a lot of this is going to be working off of the crazy stats that we can get from the Beastmaster. And so leading with the protagonist, we've got the Beastmaster with Thief. Had a bit of a use of the what's it called? Godspeed Strike. This is something people have been asking me to use for a long time on the channel. Yes, it's hitting for max damage. I'm not entirely sure whether or not it's the most damage. I feel like overall Adele does more damage with the 4-fold flurry or triple attack, which uses solid stance with multitasking. But we're going to give it a go. I suppose it's nice to have like a single max damage hit, but we'll see how I feel about that. This is probably one of the more flexible characters, just because of the way we've got set up, as you guys will see later, because he's got fairly middle of the road physical attack and magic attack. He can kind of turn his hand to anything, so we could give him some elemental coverage if we need it. We can give him the Freelancer for abilities like Purge and Examine if we need it. Also Square One's pretty good for removing buffs from enemies as well. Or alternatively, what I'll more likely do against bosses is we could give him the Pictomancer so that we can debuff the enemy. This is important because I don't plan on taking a Bard in the party. Oops, press the wrong button. I don't plan on taking a Bard in the party because I like having the Spirit Master on, which means debuffing the enemy is more effective for me than buffing the party. I actually think this is better anyway because it's, I don't know, it just seems more effective for me. So moving on to Gloria then, she's very similar to how we had her before. This is obviously the same class setup with the Spirit Master White Mage. I know there are people that kind of disagree with my opinion on their in spirit ability, but the the kind of gradual restoration of HP and MP is just great. Obviously you kind of got turn by turn healing of status effects and that kind of thing, and I just think it's heavily useful. She's got good light magic attacks as well as lots of healing. We're giving her Angelic Ward as well because I put the thing on, so it's 30% chance of damage being halved. So yeah, so it works out 15% damage reduction. Is just not reliable, but pretty cool anyway. And as you'll see later, she's actually kind of tanky now, even with lower HP than everybody else. We've got our second, what we'll call the malleable Beastmaster, I guess you'd say. So we've got Beastmaster number 1, we kind of stuck him with physical stuff. Then we've got Elvis with magical stuff. Obviously he's kind of a bit inversed as well, so he's got a bit more of a focus on magical attack here. As a standard, I'll probably keep him on Red Mage, just because that gives a bit of healing, so he's kind of like the off healer, as well as some elemental coverage. But if we're going into a boss, we'll probably switch to the element that the boss is weak to, kind of on the fly basis. All of the spells are going to be using the same stats, so he's kind of flexible in that regard, and so you know, we'll just pick up any of the other secondary jobs that we need it to have. And then we go over Adele, who again hasn't really changed her classes here. I'm probably going to be staying with the Swordmaster Beastmaster combo for the rest of the game. Just look at that, 949 physical attack power is immense. And we're still catching more monsters, that's still rising, which is kind of impressive. I really, really like it. And does a lot of damage. So next to them we'll go with jobs. It's kind of weird how equipment is above jobs, but we'll go to equipment in a second. So into abilities then, Indiscriminate Rage, just so that he can attack all of the enemies if we want him to. 2 hands better than 1 because he's single-handing a spear, just kind of works out better for him, gives him more balanced stats, so that's kind of why I went with that. Fast Hands, just because it gives him some extra speed, a little bit of synergy with the Godspeed Strike, Mug so that we can steal, and every character is going to be having Beast Whisperer because that just continually powers up most of the party. Here we have something kind of cool, something I really like out of these new classes is the dual wield ability. particularly when you can mix it with thrust and parry. So let me just get the stats for this up then. So we do not receive a penalty for dual wielding, so we can now give 2 weapons into hands and not take any minuses for it. Depending on the weapon that you plan on using, different ones can be better. Like I tried doing dual wielding with this guy, but it just didn't seem to work out as good as dual wielding here, so just kind of play around with that and see which weapons are working best for you. But in this case, this was pretty good. In addition to that, then we get to have thrust and parry, which I haven't tested yet because the enemies here haven't been able to do enough damage to me. But this says reduces damage by 15% times the number of weapons. So with dual wielding, so that's 30%, right? And damage is reduced by a further 20% if the high wind or dual wield passive abilities are in effect. So I read that as 50% damage reduction. Right, and that doesn't say whether or not that's magic or physical. So basically anybody that has that on is a tank, because you're going to be taking half damage, which is cool. And sub-job specialty there, which is going to give us the odd, you take 30% less damage. So 50% less damage on 30% of the time. So she may well end up on something like quarter damage, which, because she's on lower health, is just kind of useful. Next to them we have Elvis, and he has the dual wield thrust and parry as well. MP regen. I forgot to say that Gloria also has that on as well. So each turn they're just going to recover more MP. So that's going to be a double recovery of MP as they are doing most of the casting. This is just going to make them kind of basically energy batteries. It just doesn't seem to run out. Even on enemies that were like kind of defeating them in one round, they still seem to keep their MP up, which is just great. Oops. And then we've got full force, wherever that's gone. I'll put that back on after the video, just so that when he's spreading his abilities around, it doesn't reduce the damage by as much. Then on Adele, then indiscriminate rage, dual wielding, multitask, and mug. There's something that could be changed here. Obviously, mug could be switched to thrust and parry if you want something more defensive. But whilst we're rolling over enemies, I feel like it's a good idea just to kind of get some extra stealing on there whilst we're attacking them by so much. Obviously, the main difference to our protagonist here then is we've got multitask on, because we like synergizing that with the solid stance, so that she attacks twice, and on each of those attacks she has a 30% chance of attacking again, which means that basically most of the time she's attacking at least 3 times when she attacks an enemy, doing huge damage because she's attacking 3 separate times, so she's not limited by the 9999 cap of damage, and she gets to spread it over 3 hits. Pretty good. Something else that seems to happen with this, and I don't know if anybody out there that's watching can confirm this, but when she attacks against multiple enemies, if she defeats 4 enemies, she almost always gets 2 extra attacks at the end. So there seems to be some kind of pass over, like if she receives an extra attack for 1 enemy that happens to die, she can actually use it on one that's a part of the same set of attacks, so pretty good against groups. And then again we have the Beast Whisperer in there. Sorry if I sound like I'm rushing, it's just that I've kind of already done this video, and the sound was pretty bad, so I'm just kind of reiterating what I've already said. Okay then, so slight cut here. Sometimes when you're looking through things you just see something better, right? So I've changed him from a spear to a bow just because the stats were better. Previously he was on the Chronos Glaive. I don't know why all of a sudden it looks like the stats are better for him on the Artemis's bow, so kind of just switched that in there. Everything else has remained the same as to how it was. So because this guy is going to be kind of like our off physical damage, as it were, power braces on there with the cuirass and the full face helm, just to kind of keep him protected. On to the casters then. Both of them on double Sage's staff because they actually get the full benefit of both staffs now. Especially as dual wielding those staffs is actually going to give them extra defenses as well, so that's kind of just great for them. Kind of just put whatever gear you think is best on them. Obviously, kind of limited by your weight capacity a little bit. Valkyrie's coat's pretty good on there. Obviously, we want to have good restorative power on Gloria, so that we are able to get the heals off when we need them, and then good magic attack on Elvis, so we get extra stuff on that. We need that too. Sans time pretty good when you get the +5 speed on there twice as well. It stops Elvis being quite so slow, and plenty of defense on here there for him. Onto Adele. Not really much has changed since the previous act actually. Hyper races because I wanted her to have the most attack. Biggest armor and defense with dual swords. Kind of want her to attract most of the damage. She has the highest defense because she has the highest natural armor as well as the dual wielding bonus. So the more things can target her, the better, and she is just going to absolutely wreck everything that comes into her path. Awesome. I suppose I'd probably say, like I say, I haven't progressed far into Chapter 5 because I didn't want to kind of skip ahead in the story or anything like that until I've done this video where we've done most of the grinding, which a video for which will also be out at the same time as this one. So hopefully this is helpful for you guys, explains kind of where the party's at, where I'm thinking in terms of the jobs, kind of some of the flexibility in having these guys be the people that kind of just change secondary roles, and having a couple of set roles in there as well. Either way guys, hopefully this was enjoyable for you all, and I shall see you all in the next video.